Betsy and Thomas for the American Intelligence Media. Hey guys, you remember that time a long time ago? Gosh, it was started about 8 years ago. Betsy and Thomas jumped on and we were decoding Trump tweets. Well, we've decided we're getting back to the job of decoding now that Trump is back in office. But for now, Douglas, who is Thomas Paine in the ass of the globalist, and Tyler, Betsy Ross, what we're going to do is start taking these presidential actions, the ones that interest us, and start showing you, telling you what they mean in the big scheme of things. Now, you're not going to hear this kind of commentary anywhere in the internet, and I'll tell you why. How many of the people that you listen to have been telling you about Senior Executive Service, SES? Well, I don't hear any of them talking about it today, even though there was an executive order about the SES on Trump's first day of signing orders. There is nothing in the news about it. Alt media has nothing to say. Well, I would say that alt media probably doesn't even know what SES is because they are not good, thorough researchers, and the media is not going to talk about it. Thomas, pain in the ass of the globalists? Let's start today with the executive order on the Senior Executive Service.
The globalists ruled Trump's first administration, and he still changed things dramatically. And we could make the list, but hey, all you have to do is look at the executive orders. That's the list. He did it last time, and we had provided him, and we know that these reached him, a list of 12 things to do immediately if he wished to be the president. Otherwise, he will have no control, and the globalists will control him. And in fact, he started on that list, and then a lot of it got abnegated by senior executive service members and also people he appointed. When Rex Tillerson was hired by Trump, how much do you think he was paid? Do you think he was paid normal D.C. bureaucratic wages? No. So when you hire someone at the top of an agency who's supposed to be an expert, they use the Senior Executive Service. You don't have to go through the normal hiring practices. As a matter of fact, Hillary had a group that supplied John Podesta with 8,000 of them that were appointed by Obama, and they got 10,000 of them now, Senior Executive Service members. Look it up in the Wikipedia. It was started at Jimmy Carter's time. Funny that now, on the first day of Trump's new administration, which he never once mentioned the Senior Executive Services in his entire 4 years before, he gets rid of something that Jimmy Carter allowed to start at the same time that election rigging started. And Jimmy Carter was responsible for that, and they tried it down in South America. And now it's still controlling everything. But let's talk about the Senior Executive Service. Every one of the 56 agencies that has an official title, and there are actually many more sub-agencies. They all worked independently up until Chevron deference, which said federal agencies and their administrators may not make administrative rules that stand alone and direct that agency. Well, that's what's been happening for years. They all became independent silos. They all had senior executive service members at the top who couldn't be fired, who were appointed. This is what Trump called in his previous 4 years unelected career officials. A career because they can't be fired. Unelected because they're appointed as senior executive service members to the 10,000 positions that work inside of all these agencies. These are people who are the key gatekeepers, and they take their orders from a union called the Senior Executive Service, and it is, in fact, a shadow government. So Trump makes a specific executive order about the Senior Executive Service that completely pulls all their teeth out and all their claws out. They have no more power. And this is beautiful. He did the same thing with the National Security Council.
I was very excited because when I was looking through the executive orders and I saw this on Senior Executive Service. Now, I know people push back on me all the time. They say, why do you go on and on about this? Stop talking about this. Nobody knows what it is. Well, the reason they don't is because you've got alt media people out there protecting the Senior Executive Service. If your alt media person is not all over SES, and I'm not talking about a casual mention with a little laughter and then move to the next subject. I mean deep dive. All the alt media people should be diving as deep as your girl Betsy has on the SES. And if they're not, they're there to protect the SES. You watch. They're not going to be talking about this executive order. But I'm not going to give President Trump a pass on any of this until I see where he's going with it, because the person he has nominated for the director of the Office of Personnel Management is a guy named Scott Cooper, Kuper. K-A-P-O-R, a Kapoor. I don't know how he pronounces his name. And when you look at his bio, which is over at aimfortruth.org, you'll see he's a venture capital swamp creature. I mean, my goodness, he was even with the firm, the initial funding group with Mark Anderson that stole Leader Technologies' social networking invention and seated Zuckerberg as one of their front men. So he's an inside guy. He's not going to do anything with the SES. This goes against the British Pilgrim Society. So is Trump going to have to say to Mr. Kapoor, you need to get your job done as written by the executive order? Is he setting him up? Or is this a plan to keep stalling in the reform and the destruction of the SES for another 4 years?
Trump got us out of the World Health Organization. One of the first things he did in the first administration was the first thing in our list, which was what? Get out of the United Nations. And then I list them all. The World Health Organization, the World Bank, the World Trade Organization. When you say tariffs, you destroy the World Trade Organization. You just blew it up. When you say foreign aid, which he does, he's got a whole executive order on that, you just blew up the World Bank. When you say no more wars, you just blew up the entire military branch of the United Nations, which is supposed to be the peacekeepers. Nonsense. When you say there's only two sexes, you just blew up UNESCO. So I said at first, he didn't just get us out of them. Well, he's going to defund them. And guess what? That isn't even a treaty. That's an agreement. It's just like the Fed. There's no law that makes the Fed exist. So he just said he's taken $1 trillion from the Fed, and he got $1 trillion that day and maybe $1 trillion the next day for something else. Okay?
And I'm not don't close the IRS. Just go create another agency and let it build up its revenue stream, and then you diminish the IRS because it shouldn't be around anyway. And then I had said this years ago, why can't Americans make money being Americans? Why are we paying taxes that eventually go all over the world? The world needs to pay us to be their customer. We should all be paying no taxes.
He already did that. It's called the External Revenue Service.
Yes, I know.
And that's what she's talking about,
Yes.
folks. So when he came to power the first time, what did he do? He says, I'm going to repatriate, I forget how much money, like an untold amount of money from companies coming back to America so that he didn't go after them with the SEC for tax evasion and all kinds of crimes, RICO crimes and all kinds of crimes. So the point is that Trump is saying all this and what he's done, but he said it in the words of what's his name?
Philbin.
What?
I think it was Philbin. If y'all remember back in the Senate with the impeachment nonsense, there was that constitutional lawyer there, thin guy with glasses. Philbin is his name. Last name is, remember his last name. Amazing, brilliant. And when Douglas was reading this order that involves the intelligence community, I kept thinking, oh, I hope that guy Philbin has a team writing this stuff.
I swear, when I saw Philbin, I was like, I'm bowing down, like this guy is so intelligent that he makes me feel like an idiot. And yet, completely humble, completely calm, beautiful delivery, no upset. I mean, he was like a master of true justice.
Showing us we are a country of laws and of order.
And Tyler says that's who Trump has been hiring to do these, because these have been worked on for a long time. These aren't the executive orders of Trump before. None of these are his words, but this is his ideas. Here's what it says. Dear agency, I am bitch slapping you. I'm the boss, and you're fired now. And I might keep you around if I want. That is what he has done to these people. And it's like all across the board. He's done this to all the border people. Why didn't all the border people stand up and say this is unconstitutional? How come they kept doing their job? Why did ICE keep doing it? Because we were in a lawless age when there were laws that unless you know them, you could go to jail for just doing your job of enforcing the law. And that's exactly what happened to them. So now what are we going to do? It's called posse comitatus. I don't know. I'm going to have to look this up if it's ever happened that the President of the United States is going to take the military into action in our own borders.